So, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. Yes, it was energetic last night. It wasn't bad, but definitely the heat. And we know that we're getting storms over here. You see the storms are making its way across the U.S. and they're creeping up. So we'll have some rain, like a lot of rain later on this morning. But no, I'm not menopausal, okay? So no one diagnosed me out there. Basically, you are at one with the environment, and if you choose to buy into the medical system and the holistic system's way of characterizing energy that's coming from your body, and you choose to medicate away any energy that your body elicits, that is a choice. That is a belief system. That is a belief system tied to a reaction that then causes a systematic decline. Because someone feels heat, they feel hot flashes, they feel heat, they feel different things, doesn't mean that they would die from it. You only die from the conditions that you have when you keep applying all the different remedies to stop that energy. Because again, the energy will shapeshift and find a different way to release, which is why you get all the exotic conditions. And so this last summer, remember how bad I felt, July, August. And I know my husband felt extremely bad too, because he had to, lay in his truck on the road and get over the same thing that I was trying to get over and get through. And other people in his job also were experiencing the same thing. And how you react to that type of energy. And I'll tell you what the energy is, because somebody right now is just coming upon that energy, is just experiencing it. And we're all going to have these experiences at different times relative to our biochemistry. And so maybe you weren't really affected the last 3 years from the frequencies, and they call it COVID-19, and then all the offshoots thereafter. But maybe you didn't feel maybe you felt a few things like, maybe a little respiratory, maybe a little aches and pains here and there. But there's some pretty distinctive reactions that are really that are uniform, okay? And so this is one person's recounts, because she posted it on my Facebook, like in a comment, and I wasn't gonna y'all know my book is out there. You all know that what I did for that situation, because remember, that was July, August. I didn't have my book published until November, December. So I told you how I dealt with that very aggressive situation that happened in July, August, that someone could have called it long COVID or could have called it COVID. And then it could be a long COVID if you don't find a way to release those demons. And so she said, so from a Facebook friend in the J world. Now, she probably did the J juice and then stopped it at some point, but she may have gotten back on it. I don't know. But here's the thing. Monday morning, I was fine. This is from somebody in the J world. By afternoon, I was suffering in bed. Headache pounding. Oh, yeah. Neck and body pain. Oh, yeah. Could barely move until this afternoon. I couldn't eat anything and barely drank water. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Today, I forced it downstairs and started sipping on coconut water and started feeling replenished. All out of nowhere, aggressive stuff going on. Could only eat a little bit of food today, which I did. Still don't feel good, just feel tired and thrown off. And so, okay, now that's probably not explaining everything. Okay, I'm sure there's probably other stuff going on. People are not going to tell you everything because it's personal, and I get it. But let me tell you, if it was so bad, this was bad. For her to write this, okay, is bad. Could I figure out a magnitude of bad? Because some people can feel this bad and and maybe do other stuff to try to offset. Maybe they're not saying that they're doing the J juice, and so they offset it. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to ask her. But I'll tell you, if you don't face these demons and find a way to release that programming and do my method, if you can, this will revisit. Because remember, we have all these predisposed issues in our body. We have so many predisposed issues in our body, and we'll get glimpses of them in like snapshots, like different frequencies. And they could be coming out of all different parts of the body, the frequencies, the pain. Okay, that's another way to explain pain. But I couldn't move for a couple days. Okay? I mean, it was about a week, 2 weeks at the most, out of nowhere. But let me tell you, drinking coconut water, I wasn't feeling replenished. Nothing could go through the mycoplasma. So everyone's going to have this reaction to the frequencies when they're shifting in different ways. Okay? No, there's no 2 ways are going to be exactly the same, 3 ways, 4 ways. I mean, as far as the COVID, people experiencing some element of the COVID-19. But let me tell you, I felt like something hit me like you wouldn't. I mean, it was such a thing that tortured the hell out of me that, I mean, and I wasn't going to get on Facebook and say anything until afterwards, until I felt a little bit better. But even then, right now, she doesn't feel good. She still don't feel good, but just feel tired and thrown off. And so, we'll see how long this lasts. Now, the thing with why people get long COVID and get diagnosable conditions is because they have predisposed issues. And maybe those predisposed issues are laying dormant and then they're coming to surface. If you don't release that programming, like the method I was talking about, you'll keep getting a revisitation. So you might get to some kind of equilibrium where the symptoms and all that kind of just fade away a little bit. And then your body kind of gets used to the frequencies, right? Because that's what's going on this last week. Last week was crazy energy. And I felt like I was drunk. We're having a pending storm come up. I definitely feel awake this morning. This last couple of days, I've been sleeping on and off and having to take naps. And felt really like, whoa, over the top. In the beginning of the week, I knew coffee was the Cafe Bustelo would really take me over the top. So I had to really cut that down because we're in a new environment and it's really aggressive and it's highly influential. And so then my body was able to relax and take a nap and not feel like I have to force myself to take a nap. I actually take a nap and feel relaxed taking a nap. And even in the middle of the night, I mean, I don't even feel like I can't sleep in the middle of the night. I'm up anyways, up and down in the middle of the night. And obviously at 3 a.m, at those times, even at 3 p.m, have to pee and all that stuff. And so, but I still get good sleep. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But when your body wants to sleep, you have to freaking sleep. And so actually yesterday when I was talking to my husband and we were doing FaceTime, I looked relatively normal. Yesterday when I did those videos, I looked kind of like I was like pale. I looked like I was fighting something. And yeah, when you're trying to calibrate to a frequency, okay, and you're trying to finally regulate, you'll get to a relative equilibrium, you'll look relatively normal, and you'll feel relatively normal until the next frequency shift. So that's the thing, is that every single frequency shift is going to bring up the same thing until you actually deal with it properly. Okay, until you actually deal with it properly and release those demons. If you don't release those demons, it will keep plaguing you and plaguing you and plaguing you. And that's the thing about it, is that people don't know that they have those demons inside because they don't feel it because of how strong their the remedies and all the things that they're under are not allowing them to feel those indicators. And maybe they're not eating a lot, okay? And so when you don't eat a lot, you won't feel those negative energies because you still have reserves. But remember, you'll burn through those reserves very quickly in this environment. So some people can afford to fast, but even then what they eat may not be substantial enough for this environment relative to their size. Now, I know you can't force someone who is of smaller stature, just force feed them and make them get bigger. It has to be done incrementally, but you have to also bring in that food. That's why I told her, when she mentioned that on my Facebook, I said, just keep eating. I didn't say what to eat because it's not made for me to say what you should eat. But that's why you're seeing what I'm putting on my Facebook. I'm eating like the raviolis, like heavy stuff. I'm eating like 9 hamburgers in a few days. I'm eating like pork chops. I'm eating bread with butter, heavy butter and cheese. I mean, I'm not letting anything go to waste, and I'm not being like cutesy about the food. This food is going to be something that's going to save you because it's giving you the substance. And yeah, you might get indigestion. You might feel the tummy turning over, and you hear the activity, because yeah, when I eat my probiotic yogurt at night, because I usually, right before I go to sleep, I eat my Activia probiotic yogurt, and I start farting, and that's great. That means that there's energy going through, there's life being developed, and then I know the next day at some point, it may not have a lot of stuff I'm releasing. Like I didn't release a lot of stuff today, but I know that the next few days I'll release stuff. Okay, and so there's that cycle of the body holding on to food and then releasing it when it's appropriate. But I finally am at a calibration, and so potentially the frequencies that do come up on the weekends, if they aren't another level, that they take us up to another level, I could be relatively okay. I'll still feel the heat. But last weekend, they took it up another notch because I felt drunk. And other people are feeling dizzy and they're feeling this. People are dealing with their diseases or getting hospitalized, or they're feeling so much pain they can't wait for another surgery. I mean, I see it. That's all over my Facebook. You can see how these frequencies are affecting people, and they're affecting them in different ways. And or there's something like what this lady was going through that was similar to my situation. How aggressive it is, how bad it is, all relative to how she deals with it and her predisposed issues. Okay, again, my husband felt it, though he took NyQuil 1 or 2 days out of the days that he was dealing with it. I didn't take anything, so that's why my stuff lasted for a week or 2 weeks. Okay, I think it was a good month before I felt like 100%. And so yeah, if you are working and having obligations, I can understand people having to cut down that release time, because every single pain and even fatigue is a release process. So I say, when you're tired, you go to fucking sleep. Don't try to fight the sleep. But when people don't realize how aggressive things are, and they've cut off the indicators, or they're bigger in stature, there is definitely energy conversion going on, and you can see it in people's bodies just through you can see the hair go gray. You can see the face finally, is morphing into different ways. That in a larger person who is a bit more tolerant, that's the accepted aging process prior to COVID-19. Though, I mean, even though they still feel pains every so often in different parts of their body, but they're so used to that because they've been dealing with that for such a long time that it's like, okay, it's manageable. But there are some people out there that will go through the regular aging process, okay, won't think really anything is that bad, really can't connect or even associate or have any relationship with someone who feels these frequencies, who is very sensitive, because you're like, what? So yeah, if you don't feel what's going on and you're oblivious, and you won't have any relationship with what I'm saying or even what other people are going through, because you haven't gone through it yourself. And so that's what I'm saying. It takes someone actually understanding through having similar situations and feeling something knocking them on their ass. But even though they were knocking their ass for a minute and they took something like a NyQuil or something else, that still isn't really proof enough for them that this environment is aggressive. And people still deny climate change. That's already out there. They still deny climate change. Though how they deny it is they think that it's like it is a false narrative that is made to enslave people by making them stay home and or do whatever. But remember, these are the activist stances that were forced down our throat for the last 10 years. So that way people would be distracted with that version of it. But then I said, I never said that it's like, I'm not denying climate change. It is climate change. And it's and they are actually messing with the weather. But see, that's the thing. They don't make that connection that climate change and geoengineering are the same thing. See, that's now I finally figured out how to explain it. Because when people compartmentalize geoengineering, which is intentional weather engineering, and climate change, which then is already an assumption that it's like a natural, organic, cycle of the universe. Okay, well, that's another truth that you could adopt and that'd be fine. But when you think about it, you could actually merge geoengineering and climate change together, and they're telling you they're changing the fucking weather because, there's a lot of stuff going on that needs to be released, and people have been just too comfortable and they need to suffer so they can appreciate all the good times they had the last 40 years. People are getting, obviously too taking things for granted, too entitled. And now it's time to realize that you've been given so much stuff and you don't appreciate it. So now not only are we going to take it away and change things, but we're going to make you fight for your life. Who has it in them to fight for? Who's a survivor out there when you think about it? And I don't think it's a bad thing, because when you think about it, when you spoil a kid so much, you've seen it in families, you spoil kids so much, they have absolutely no appreciation for money, for consideration for anyone's feelings, for property, for education, for anything. So that's the thing. So when you spoil someone or something or a community so much, they have no appreciation, and then they just go and do stuff to excess. So when you take all that away and you make them fight harder for their food, water, and everything else, and make all the fun stuff more expensive, then you're going to figure out, you're going to either put your priorities to all the fun stuff where you can't fucking eat it and you deplete and you pass away, or you figure out, well, where am I put my priorities? Where am I put my money? Oh, I got to eat. I can't eat this pound of gold here. I can't eat these paper certificates representing something. I could eat these raviolis. This is where I put my money, is in the food that I eat, but not like cute little fancy shit food. I'm talking about substantial food. I mean, it's great to have colorful food. Don't get me wrong, that's good stuff. But you really need some substantial food in this environment because of the particle acceleration, okay? And so some people have money, energy, and a body to burn, and they want to keep the party going. And some people don't have enough of the well, they have money, but they don't really have the energy or the body to burn. And so they're trying to keep up with those that have all that, just like a poor person going into debt, trying to keep up with someone who's rich. You've seen those, right? And they're going into debt, and they're beg, borrowing, stealing, and doing Ponzi schemes to keep up with everyone around them. And they end up, it ends up biting them in the ass later on, because they can't afford to keep that party going. They don't have what it takes. And so I realized, even with my, in a slower frequency environment, I can kind of keep up with my husband, because I didn't have to fight against the frequencies and to keep up with his lifestyle and all this other stuff. And now with the frequencies, okay, and then me releasing my demons, and he's still steadily doing the stuff. He hasn't really changed. His lifestyle hasn't really changed so much. Okay, a little bit. I mean, he doesn't go out every weekend and go drinking like he used to. That wouldn't work for him now. Okay, he's a bit more responsible now. I mean, as far as that, people do go out and drink and still can maintain a job, but it just doesn't serve him at this point. He's fishing, and I'm not a drinker, so he would be drinking without me, and then that's living a single lifestyle. But even then, if I did keep up with him, with cooking and everything, all that, when he was home every single night. And so every single night and every single morning, well, not every morning, but yeah, I'd make coffee and then cook for him at night when he was working at the garbage place. But now that he's gone during the week, I can gather my energy and conserve it, because now with the way the frequencies are on the weekends, and then with him coming in and being like this storm of just energy and stuff, and I'm able to calibrate. So I found a way to be able to keep up with him on the weekends. But I know if things do change as far as the frequencies, I'll have to take a nap. And he's like, oh, well, while you're napping, I'm going to go in the garage and go fiddle around with my boat and stuff. And that's fine. And so you got to know how much can you afford. People don't know that they can't afford to keep up with the Joneses. They can't afford to keep up with all their friends and family and everything else. That they got to take time to themselves and not only eat, but rest. I'm telling you, those that are older that have done so much stuff, like traveled and ate out and seen stuff, and they don't feel like they have to go and experience stuff. They have gotten the education. Like, I'm 50 and I've traveled, have the education, done a lot of things, and now I'm like a person who is retired. When you think about it, who should be doing what I'm doing if they really, I'm not going to say should, but if they want to have another chance at life, a second chance at life, this is what a retired person who is relatively healthy needs to do, is to relax for a minute and recoup the resources. Okay? And you've done all the travel. Maybe you have, maybe people use retirement to go travel, but in this day and age, I don't know if I really want to. I could be missing, taken for ransom if you go to different countries. But this is the time, if I was a retired person, and I'm about 15, 20 years away from retirement, to recoup the resources lost through all those years of partying and doing all this stuff. Maybe this is the time as you get older, in your 50s and 60s, it's time to relax and pull back. Okay, but some of you are like around my age or so, or maybe a little bit younger, and you have things you need to get done, and you have goals you want to accomplish, and you're an entrepreneur, and you're in the J world, and you can balance both. That's great. But obviously, you need to take the time when you have to take the time. But if you aren't in an entrepreneurial situation and you do have Social Security, especially in America, and you're in your 50s and 60s, take the time. Take the time, because you're not going to get it back. Those that are younger, in their 30s, you have a lot to prove. Not only do you have children to raise, you have careers to figure out. I don't envy your situation. You have a lot that you have to juggle. And, I couldn't tell you how you would navigate that situation, given that you have expectations from in-laws, from your employer, from your husband, your wife, and your baby, and your children. That's a lot of expectation to me. That's a lot. That's like parsing yourself out. That's like taking pieces of yourself and basically giving them to your employer, to your wife, to your husband, to your child, to your friends, to your family, to all. Oh my God, I couldn't do it. And so I wouldn't blame someone leaving a situation if they had to save themselves. But then you're like, well, then they're walking away from their family, their kids. I mean, I know it's not great, not a wonderful thing, but some people have to save themselves. Maybe they don't have what it takes to give 90% of their energy to people who are not really going to give back to them. Because if you are that much at deficit and you have to give 90% of your energy to people every single day or every week, that's a lot. And you would be sacrificing yourself. You would literally be the sacrificial lamb. And I think a lot of men and women out there who are the major breadwinners, who have people that need so much stuff from them, they are the sacrificial lambs. I don't want my husband to be the sacrificial lamb. I only spend money on food. I do not do anything more than what I absolutely have to do as far as maintain, what I'm doing with the J world, which is really not much. I have hardly any expenses with the J world. It's like yearly expenses when you think about it. And then I make sure that I take care of just the necessary things, and anything that is extra, we either do together and we talk about it, or I let him do almost whatever he wants. So he feels like he's getting really good return on his investment. Because if I wasn't here, right, he would still have to have a house. He would still have to have some kind of internet. He would still have to have food. He would still have to have gas and electric and pay the mortgage and insurance. And we don't have to have that kind of car, but he wants his boat. And so I don't use credit cards. Okay. I mean, any credit card that he wants to get for his stuff, he uses it for his stuff. If it's all in his name, that's fine. I don't spend any money on a credit card even together. So that way I would never saddle him with any credit card debt. And the only thing that he has on me, you know, as far as is the phones, because I have the phones in my name. And so, but that's about it. So that's how I'm able to feel okay with our situation, that I'm not enslaving him. Okay, that's the thing, is that I want to give him the chance that he could cut down his lifestyle if he wanted to. Would he want to give up his boat? Probably not. Okay, but that's what makes him feel happy. But if he ever had to cut down his lifestyle because of a health condition, he could. And or needed to only work a few times, you know, a week, versus how much he works, because to maintain his lifestyle. And then I can do something part-time if we had to, that type of thing. But I wouldn't like have him work full-time, like almost 6 days a week, and then me work full-time like 5 or 6 days a week, only to spend more on the expenses of working, and then what? Blow it on what? Unless we have a goal like getting something done with the house. But at this point, we could even do, you know, with on his income, if he put more of his money, the extra money, towards the house, that we get the house done, figured out. And that's even, so that's what we're talking about too. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that there's ways of which even a couple who doesn't have any animals, any children, any dependents, and doesn't have a heavy lifestyle, okay, they can find a way to not enslave both people. And that the one person that's able to work and enjoys it on some level, and it gives them a little bit of the extracurricular stuff, like the fun stuff, the social stuff, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of acceptance, the feeling of accomplishment, because that's what jobs do, it's like that. They can still maintain that. The other person can find ways to save money and purge out this and purge out that. And so it's like a team effort. It's really a team effort. So anyway, so I know how much I can afford as far as spending my energy. And let me tell you, I tried to keep up. A couple of years ago, I tried to keep up with the drinking, tried to keep up with all the social stuff. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go out every single weekend and drink. And I'm not saying that anything wrong with it. If you have the capacity and that's something that is enjoyable and it gives you pleasure and all that, I couldn't. I would die because I don't have hardly anything to me. I don't have the tolerance level. And even those that are really active on the weekends doing all their hiking and boating and all that stuff, that's still a lot of energy to expend. Okay? But you don't do anything during the week, Jillian, so you could afford to do it on the week. Yeah, I could, but remember that now the frequencies are kind of insane. Now you got to recuperate from the energy shifts that go on every single weekend. Okay? So you got to see, I understand transactional relationships between myself and the environment and the people and all the expectations. It's like bean counting energy. And it seems very anal retentive, but I guess given that we are in the J world and it's all about releasing the demons, and it is for your anus, anal retentiveness is, it seems appropriate, okay? But yeah, I do bean count energy. But that's such a weird, that's like, believe me, I like to enjoy things and be carefree, but everything has to be kind of situated and allowance for carefree, which takes away from being carefree. Again, it's all about measuring risk, knowing the world that I live in, knowing the situation that we are in as far as this whole climate change, and people are unpredictable and it's aggressive out there. It's hard to be carefree. You can't be carefree. I mean, you can be carefree, but you might have a surprise. And so you got to care about stuff. You got to bean count energy. You got to understand transactional relationships between everything, not so much like between people. Yeah, I mean, but not really. I mean, I don't mind spending money on a person that I don't expect them to give back to me, but you got to look at how much you're doing that, and everything is transactional because you work hard for your money, you work hard for your time off, and you got to understand there's so much more going on under the radar we have two different worlds. The conscious world where you're like, oh yeah, you react to your hormones because of people give off energy and you react to it. And there's that transaction, but there's also subconscious transactional relationships. And then those things can, I don't know, hypnotize you into things. And so you have to be aware of that and words and this and that. And you're like, oh my God, this is too much, Jillian. But it's after 50 years of experience, you start looking at those things. When you're like 20 and 30, you're not really aware of that. You're just reacting and you're doing what you're told to do. You're doing what you think is appropriate, what you think is normal for someone your age in your society. And that's fine. You're paying your dues. You're going to learn the easy way and the hard way. And sometimes it's looking to your elders, and it could be someone who's 20 years older than you or someone who's like 50 years older than you, and seeing what they've experienced and how you can potentially save yourself some major heartache if you learn to just slow it down and not feel like you have to keep up with somebody else. But again, remember, we have people who have predisposed issues, who have addictions, who have so many health issues. And so there's so many factors. So anyways, man, I got off on that tangent. But yeah, really, I guess the whole main takeaway is understanding your biochemical financial ability, and also understand your own financial, like regular financial, not so much your social capital, but your financial capital. What can you really actually afford and where you should put your money? And at this point, you got to put money in food. And so as far as, oh gosh, the thing with the FDA and with Roundup and with the tinctures and all the different remedies and all the FDA approved type of stuff, you gotta realize everything is broken down into fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. And if something's FDA approved starts as a pesticide for crops, then it's just making you stronger. Roundup has been the same when you think about it. So when you're used to Roundup, you should not have an issue. You might, if someone has an issue anyways, and they get exposed to Roundup and it causes a chemical reaction, and they can make that correlation equals causation. But other people who've been around Roundup for years, they're used to it and they're doing okay. But then if they're not feeding their body and releasing the demons, then their long-term exposure to Roundup, if they can make that correlation equals causation yet again, could potentially win them a lawsuit. But that's the thing, is that no matter what, if it's FDA approved, it was fine for the time for the general population, because the general population was used to this set of elements, minerals put together. But when there is a frequency change, when we have new generations coming in with compound predisposed issues, then the things that used to not give them a reaction, it used to work as far as not give them a reaction, like even the medicines that are out there for the general population, they have to get recalled. Okay? Because kids with compound predisposed issues, and they have to evolve, and that then causes more of an evolution and changes in the frequencies and the environment. And some of the things that used to be okay and not give you a reaction will give you a reaction, which is why you see animal foods get recalled, why you see other foods get recalled. And then why you're seeing more lawsuits against pesticide companies. And everyone's like, oh my God, GMO, so horrible. And it's just a mess all over. But then you're okay with your friends giving you concoctions of minerals, and they call it a remedy, when it's really not that different than Roundup. Oh my God, Jillian, that's so blasphemous to say that my concoction of herbs and tinctures, and it's all elements and minerals. That's all it is. Okay, plant-based versus metal-based, but it's all the same thing, because even plants can have heavy metals in them, minerals. Okay, if you really want to break everything down and compare side by side, but you still need fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. What the composition, the makeup is just all relative to the intention. And then your tolerance level. So you have an intolerance towards your environment. It's not going to matter what the fuck it is. You'll be blaming everything. Oh, it's the air, the food, the water, and all this other stuff. And so And so when you get an antibiotic, right? When you get an antibiotic, it causes a mutation. It causes another exotic disease because you're trying to stop the body from releasing and evolving. And so the body then goes and recalibrates and figures out another place to release somewhere else, another disease. And which is not bad, makes you stronger, right? But what happens is people get intolerant and they start taking away food. And so you see the milk intolerance, you see the meat intolerance, you see the food, all the different, nightshades and other types of food intolerances, fish intolerances, tomato intolerances, nut allergies. I mean, you name it. And that's why there is a negative connotation around the antibiotics, around the Roundup, around all the things like the V's, because people are starving and they can't handle any immune system triggering. They can't handle immune system activation. And so there's really nothing wrong when you think about with anything out there, but it's the fact that people can't handle the immune system activation, the release process. The system has patented every single energy release from the body, and they have, again, a medicine, an herb, a surgery, a Rife machine energy thing attached to it. And then you wonder why we have kids who are so intolerant that turn into intolerant adults that are fighting diseases. And so that's why I say you need to eat. In this environment, you need to eat and understand how to pull out the demons. And so, yeah, my book tells you what I did, but some people don't have the mobility. They've had shoulder surgeries. They have weak hands. They may not have what it takes to release the demons in the way that makes sense. And when those demons are stuck in you, like literally stuck in you and torturing the hell out of you, yeah, you're going to see a lot of shit go on out there, literally. So, but that's the issue right now, is that there's really nothing wrong with anything FDA approved or EPA approved. It's the fact that people are starving and they're intolerant, and you can't change people who don't want to be converted. You can't convert people. They have to convert themselves. And so, yeah, what happens is that people will go to, when they can't handle, when the drugs with the intention to stop the energy doesn't work anymore because the frequencies have changed and you're going to stronger drugs, that's the eventual rest in peace. And then you're going to all the surgeries and all that stuff, that's the eventual rest in peace. And so you hope to live through every single time they take away percentages of your life force until you're like the Walking Dead. That's why they call it the Walking Dead. All right, bye.